Okay. So I was saying, so doing all this, the research for this particular class, and not just research, channeling with Isis, and spending time in the quiet. There's so much to talk about in this 1 hour. We could go over a little bit, but conversation about priestesses of Isis. Based on I've been picking these topics based on the. Let me just let some more people in. Based on the chapters and the information, I thought that is probably what most people have questions about and want to talk about. So, so I said, okay, I'll do Priestess of Isis. So it's, I think it's chapter 4 in the book, but it's scattered throughout. Isis and, the Magdalene talks about a lot of her practices and all of that throughout the book. But mostly I pulled it from the basic core of our conversation from that chapter. And I just want to share with each of you, who most of you know me and have been doing my classes, but some people who watch this on recording may not know my history. As I began this journey, this evolution, it's been decades really, but in the early 2000s, when I first became clairaudient and the masters were coming to me and speaking to me and asking me to do work with them. I didn't know at that time that this has been an evolution into working with the goddess energies and the divine feminine. But one of the first, after I was introduced, to the Brotherhood of Light and with the Order of Melchizedek, over a few years, and they were teaching me and working with me, that's when I first started to hear from the aspects of the Divine Mother, which growing up Catholic, Irish Catholic, I didn't really know. You just don't know what you don't know. So I didn't know Brigid, and I didn't know Isis. So she was one of those, were the first two that really came to me and started speaking through me. So I was learning as I was channeling and coming to know them and their energy and what they bring early on. And it was transformational, obviously. I only knew the Blessed Mother, and of course I knew Mary Magdalene, but I only knew the Christian forms of the Divine Mother. So that's my history. That's where I am coming from. You know what, if you have like background noise, can you mute yourselves? Let me see. I can, just because it's a little distracting. I don't know if I can do that. So anyway, so that's my background, and that's where I'm coming from. When I eventually channeled this book with Mary Magdalene, I did know Isis by that time, and I did know who she was and many of the goddess energies. But some of you who are watching this, I presented this as an introduction, a basic, and the Magdalene and Isis speak of it as a basic skills course, just coming to know these teachings and the information that they're bringing forward. So I'm going to try to keep it and not go too deep. I know some of us might want to go deep, but I'm going to try to keep it just information, and then a sharing of some of the transmissions that I have received from Isis and Mary Magdalene, just a blending of the two. And of course, anybody who wants to share any of their experiences and knowledge of Isis and the Priestess of Isis, or I'd be happy to have you share, and definitely ask questions as I go. So who is Isis? So we're talking about the Priestesses of Isis. So who is Isis? Isis is this term, a goddess, the goddess Isis. She's one of the ancient Egyptian goddesses, the Egyptian goddess of ancient times. So we can, if you research her on Wikipedia, you get all the myths of Isis as symbolic and all her different names. She goes by, so Isis is actually the Greek name. Her Egyptian name is Uset, and then I have another name for her later, but she's also known as Aset, Iset, Isa, and then Oset is how I found another spelling of it as an Egyptian name. So, but we're going to speak of Isis. She introduced herself to me as Isis when she first came to me, and that's how most of us know her. So she's an Egyptian goddess, and they speak of her online, or if you read a scholarly book, as a myth. But I know her as an aspect of the Divine Mother. She speaks to me, she comes to me, she has a very specific energy, feeling when she works through me. Some people will say she's very strongly connected with Mary Magdalene. Obviously, that's why we're talking about her today. Some people will say that Mary Magdalene is an incarnation of Isis, and I know them as two aspects of the Divine Mother, two different aspects of the Divine Mother, similar but not the same. So I know her as, and we'll get into it more, as an actual embodied human, incarnated, feminine, female being who came to Earth and walked the earth. So I will speak to her, of her in both ways. So
Mary,
yeah,
Isis incarnated also walking the earth.
I'm speaking of Isis. That's what I'm saying. Isis, I know her as an incarnated state of being. I'm saying it correctly. I know her to have walked the earth. Like, she shares with me that and I will share with you some of the things that she's spoken of, that she came to Earth, and she is an ancient, she's termed a goddess, but an enlightened being who came to the Earth to help the Earth in its evolution.
Thank you.
So I'm going to speak about her, and I'm going to share with you information in terms of her mythology, just because she symbolizes so much, and it's important to know as we get into the Priestesses of Isis and what they practice, some of the symbolism and the what she represents, as well as what she brought when she physically incarnated. She's linked to Hathor, the goddess Hathor, who is much more ancient than Isis, and she's also connected in Greece to Demeter and Astarte. She's known as the Stella Maris, the Star of the Sea. That's one of her. I know we think of the Blessed Mother now. I know there's a Stella Maris near us in New Jersey, but originally Isis was known as the Star of the Sea. And she's mentioned, if you know the Book of the Dead, she's spoken about in the Book of the Dead, which is an ancient text from Egypt that was found in Egypt, that speaks of Thoth and many of the ancient gods and goddesses and the creation of, I don't know that much about the Book of the Dead, but they speak about the gods and goddesses of ancient times. And Isis is mentioned there as one who gives birth to heaven and earth. Let me see, I'm just going to skip over some of this. Okay, she's first worshipped in Egypt, Lower Egypt, but her worship did grow. And so she moved to Greece, Rome, of course, and Britain. And to this day, there are priestesses of Isis who worship Isis. But she was worshipped as the Blessed Mother is now. And so in the time period when she was most popular or most known was 380 to 362 BCE. So was she known prior to that? Yes, thousands of years, and we'll talk about that. Her last temple of Isis closed in 550 AD, where you went and you worshiped Isis. So that was like the period of time when she was most prevalent. But of course, she's known today, and she's still called upon to help us in our embodiment of the Divine Mother. She's known as the winged goddess. She's often depicted with a crown, a throne. She's, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. Also, sometimes a vulture, because she was she was the protector of those who, the sarcophaguses, those who pass on. She helped the crossing over process, protection. And she was known for rebirth, regeneration, fertility, all of that. So this is in the temples of Isis. This is all prior. This is all just history prior to Mary Magdalene, just to give you a background of who she is. Let's see what else I want to talk about. So she's, and I will give you one of my transmissions. She's connected to, and I'm not the only one who says it, to the star system Sirius. And she talks about many masters that came from that star system, and the temples in Egypt are aligned with that star system, knowing that these masters came from Sirius. She's known, let's see, what else? Lapis lazuli, and this is mentioned in the channeling that I did, is very connected to Isis, because lapis lazuli was valuable in Egypt. It was predominantly found in what's now known as Afghanistan. But you find lapis on many of her statues, many of her depictions of Isis will have lapis in it. It was because of the indigo blue color of it, was connected with the sky, with the heavens, but then the flecks of gold were connected to the stars. So it was considered symbolic of the heavenly space. And let's see. Yeah. And it was considered sacred to Isis. So that's just a background on Isis. We could talk, and I will talk a little bit more about her, but more as an embodiment of the Divine Mother. But there's so much to say, and I'm sure some of you know a lot about Isis, have studied her in depth, and have a lot. And I'll just say to you now, if anybody wants to offer anything that they know of the history and the mythology, I'm going to get into her, the story of her as the Holy Family with Osiris and Horus and all that. But does anybody have anything that they want to contribute in their knowledge of Isis? No? Okay. So one of the books that, if you really want to know more about really all of the aspects of the goddesses, but she talks a lot about Isis. If I can find the book so I can show it to you, because I'm going to refer to her now. Return of the Divine Sophia by Tricia McCannon. It looks like this. So Tricia McCannon is she's a spiritualist, she's a medium, but she's also has written so many books on the mystery school. She's a teacher of the mystery school. So she's got one on Jesus, the lost 30 years of Jesus. She's got so many books, and I would highly recommend her books if you want to research more. And I have studied with Tricia McCannon, so really, really like her. So she, in her book, Return of the Divine Sophia, talks about Isis as being she of the 10,000 names and faces, the different aspects and names that she goes by. She's the female I am principle of the great mysteries, the goddess of healing, wisdom, and magic. And her name, the Egyptian name Aset, translated means high dove. the first of all created beings. She is known as wife, daughter, sister, wisdom keeper, widow, and queen. And the widow part is connected to her story that, like, now we're getting into, there's the myth of Isis and then the story, which Trisha talks about as that she came to the earth, and Isis tells me the same, that she came to the earth after the flood, after Atlantis, to help the earth as one of these great masters that came to help the earth after the fall, and during the times of darkness. She is the daughter of Thoth and wife to Osiris, and they all came to help establish the mystery schools, to teach, to help with agriculture and writing, and so many aspects to help the earth to evolve after the fall. And it said that during a great time of darkness on the earth, after she was here, for hundreds of years, her half brother Set, who brought the darkness, killed Osiris, and she and her son Horus had to hide. And it's a whole story of them, and then her being able to bring there's a whole story about how Osiris was dismembered, and then she was able to resurrect Osiris, and all the symbolism that's very much connected with the Holy Family now, with Horus as Jesus and the resurrected Christ, the Christ child, and of course Isis as Mary. And those that followed her because of Set killing Osiris, she was known as the widow. And so those who followed her were known as sons of the widow, which the Freemasons still use that term for themselves, sons of the widow. And the spiritual temples taught that there was one creator, that there was a divine spark within us. They taught about the balance between male and female that brings us into mastery. And they taught about ritual purification, death and rebirth. That was part of the whole mystery schools of Isis. I also used Tom Kenyon. Where is it? The Magdalene manuscript. If you don't know Tom Kenyon, he channels Isis. He's a powerful sound healer and just amazing. He speaks, his book, The Magdalene Manuscript, is a channeled book as well. But it's actually, the subtitle is The Alchemist of Horus and the Sex Magic of Isis. So he brings some of the mystery school teachings in his book as well. But he talks about the schools of Isis, the priestesses of Isis, studying the feminine principle that says that within the feminine principle is held the nature, the alchemical key, through the rising of the serpent power, the serpentine energies, and opening up the circuits of the brain. Alchemy occurs, that enlightenment, the awakening of what he calls actually the urace, with blue fire that extends up the spine and into the brain. But it's awakening of our truth, of our being. So these are all Trisha McCannon and Tom Kenyon speaking on some of what the mystery schools of Priestess of Isis taught. So I just want to give you some background. So if you want to do some research, maybe I'll put those in. I'll put those in the chat while I'm typing, if anybody has any questions.
Hey Mary, yes, about that topic of sex magic in general, what is that
Mhm.
supposed to bring about exactly? Is that just like you said, like just an awakening of all, or like
Yeah, it's expansion of yeah, it's the awakening of the light body. It's the
okay,
awakening of the light body, and it's enlightenment. Um,
it doesn't necessarily have to be, I guess, sexual in nature. It's just like everything is just opening in a way, if that makes sense.
oh, is that Levira? I just realized it
Yeah.
was you.
Hi, sorry. The
No,
only
wait,
reason
I have the
I ask,
little box in front of my face, so I can't see.
I
Um,
just ask because like I know you've mentioned it to me before in a private reading, and then someone else had told me in a Reiki session about that. And I was like, and I
yeah,
never really understood exactly
what
what,
it is.
yeah.
I
So,
know. Yeah, I mean that's a whole class, and that's what actually you're ready for the level 3 training. That's what we get into in the Order of the Blue Rose. We work with the Kundalini energies, and that's what we're going to be doing. Um, so yeah, so that's a perfect segue. I'm not going to get in
I know
depth,
I didn't want to like,
but I
yeah.
will kind of, I'm going to talk about it now, because this is what the Magdalene talks about in the, she doesn't get into, she doesn't call it sex magic, but she talks about going to Egypt with her father, with her family, that they, and some of the things that they practice. So I just I want to talk about all of it, but I will get into it more, that particular question. So in the book that the Magdalene brought to each of us, let me just let somebody else in. She talks about how her father and her family, but her father in particular, were living in Qumran, always seeking the advancement of knowledge and truth, and traveling a lot. They went to Alexandria. They had access to all these manuscripts and teachings, and they also traveled to the temples of Egypt. And this part, I always research if anybody ever has any information for me, I'd love to hear it, because she was so specific that they went to the Temple of Luxor to study. And when I researched, like, there's no evidence or anything that says, yes, the Priestess of Isis were in the Temple of Luxor, but she repeatedly tells me that's where they were. And that she goes there. So the temple, and just so you know, what the Temple of Luxor, so it's within the city of Luxor, along the Nile, which is significant. It's dedicated to the rejuvenation of kingship. Many kings were crowned there, like Alexander the Great. But it is the largest and most significant center in Egypt. So I guess in that way, it would make sense that there was a lot, and there's lots of rooms and hidden rooms. It would make sense in that way that they would be there. They would have an area that they could study in. And there's a whole, like, in the hieroglyphs, the whole story of Thoth and the queen helping to awaken the Christ child, I guess. There's a whole scene on the walls there. And there is a representation of Isis and Hathor within the Luxor temple. So anyway, so she goes there, and then she talks about she'd already visited at nighttime. She talks about her dreams, and she would see these priestesses of Isis, and she knew them. And then she talks about getting there and her mother being recognized by the other women because of how does she say it? The veil of light that they recognized as an initiate that she bore, that they could see in their inner vision. So when you study and hear about Isis and the priest of Isis, you hear a lot about the veil of Isis. And I just came back from France. There's so many of the Black Madonnas, and this veil over many of the statues. And there's lots of different ways that it's interpreted. But what resonates most with me, and what the Magdalene and Isis share with me, is that the veil is symbolic of the veil, the hidden mysteries, the hidden, and she was just talking to me about it this morning, the seeking inward of the inner sanctuary to know that the mysteries of the natural world and what is hidden and not seen by the naked eye, but is as you look within, as you go within. And the feminine, it is through the feminine that this veil is lifted and parted. So, and I have seen, for some of you who've like studied with me, I see it as an indigo blue veil over many of the women and men who've studied with and done the initiations. I've seen it. So so she says that it's seen by these priestesses, the mother, and she's in these inner chambers underneath the Temple of Luxor. And then this great light comes into the room, and this yes enters her. She speaks repeatedly of this resounding yes, like for all of us, the yes. And if you've experienced it, you know it. It's just, you don't know what your intellectual mind doesn't know what it is, but you're saying you feel this calling and you feel this yes inside of you, this vibration, this light that says, your heart says, I'm being called, and I say yes to it. And so she lays prostrate on the floor, and all in the room can feel this energy, this light, and know that she has been invited. So the Priestess of Isis, it is said that you need to be invited to become you can't just say, I'm going to go there. That's it. I want to study. It's not, it's a call from the goddess Isis, from the Divine Mother, to enter into the mysteries of the Divine Feminine, to come to know her. So Mary Magdalene says that, yes, she doesn't say in so many words that she was invited and she was received, and she said yes. And so she never says that was the intention of this trip. She was 13 years old, but maybe there was an inner knowing, with her father, who was so intuitive, and her mother, that this may happen, because they went to visit these priestesses of Isis, daughters of Isis. And so that's an initiation, and she stays. And so for 3 days after that, her family remained, and then they leave her there at the age of 13. And she begins to study with the daughters, the priestesses of Isis. So, where do I want to go with this? So the priestesses of Isis were known as healers, as practitioners of magic. So we'll get into that again, Lagira. They were known as midwives. And they're also known for prophecy and for counsel. The Magdalene talks about it later, that she offered counsel to many who came. So in the research, I never found this word or what they would have been called, but I know that they, just as many of us, offer spiritual guidance to those who are seeking it. So, and they entered this temple to learn from the elders and high initiates, the high priestess. So there were many ages within the temple, within the mystery schools of the Priestess of Isis. They were called, and I kept like questioning whether I was hearing this right, but she repeatedly told me, yes, they're calling priestess apostolate. They were called, in the book she speaks and says, I was an enunciate of the chalice of divine functioning. And when I was working with Tricia McCannon, and since then I now see the word, I did like a past life regression, and I was in the temples as a priestess of Isis, and she asked me, what is your name? And I said to her, Kayla. And for a long time, I thought that was my name. And then I was reading something and I realized Kayla is an initiate. It's another word for an apprentice, an initiate. So they were known as Kayla, Chela. And then she gets into this conversation about what their rituals were, what they did every day. And she guides me in this way all the time. And many of the people who, I share spiritual guidance with, they would rise early. They would spend time in the quiet, invoking the name of the Divine Mother, and receive her through their inner vision. So these are these young girls. They were being trained in meditation and to communicate, to develop their inner vision. And then they were encouraged to share what they received with the other initiates, with the high priestesses there. And so it wasn't, it was, and that's really my intention here. I'm sharing what I receive, and I really want all of us to share and to know. I was just reading, what was I reading? Oh, do you know Helena Blavatsky? Who's written, what are her, I mean, she's from like the 1800s. She's a mystic. She began the Theosophists. I mean, I don't understand half of what she writes, but such a powerful mystic. And she speaks about teaching as being, and I can't think of her exact words, but that it's a drawing forth, it's a resonating and bringing forth of what's already present within you. It's a sharing and really an activation of your memories of what you already know. So in Mary Magdalene's description of how they began their day with their inner vision, connecting with their inner vision, and the high priestesses, the elders, drawing forth from them what is Isis sharing with you? What is the inner knowing that you have right now? And then they also would share with them the teachings in the early morning. And then they would go into nature and they would go to purify. They would go into the River Nile and they would swim. And she talks about how they were young, so they would laugh and they'd have fun. But the purification process and the swimming in the waters, so important. And for those of us who've done some of the trainings, it's so important in those trainings that she talks about taking salt baths or getting into mineral waters or purifying the baths, getting into the waters, both for purification processes. Also, it's symbolic, and she talks about the symbolism of the flow of the river, the teaching through nature of how it cleanses and purifies the land, and it brings fertility and it brings abundance, and likening it to the movement of light within us and the movement of light through our bodies, through our veins, and how it purifies, but also brings fertility, brings creativity, and helps us to step into our full light body, into who we are. So they talk about that, and bringing nourishment. Yeah, the river flows, cleanses, and brings nourishment. And then she talks about how they study the stars, in particular star system Sirius, and how they would, like, at night, and they would actually like applaud when the first star would come. And so they were astrologers. They knew the placement of the stars and the planets and their alignment and their significance to their lives, to their earth. And she says, and we knew we were star seeds. They taught in these mystery schools in Egypt the knowledge that they came from the stars. And that's powerful. That's a powerful teaching that they carried with them in those times. They also, And she actually, when I give you the transmission that Isis shared with me, she talks about it again. But they also use the sistrum, which is like a, yeah, I think it's, yeah, like I brought it with me now to the training because it's and mine's a little old, but yeah, I think this is actually, I don't know if it's Hathor or Isis. We can get them mixed up, but not mixed up, but their symbology can be very similar. But you can see like the wings of Isis are very you see that a lot with Isis. But the use of the sistrum and the use of the voice, and this is what she kept repeating to me that she wanted me to share with you, the use of the voice and singing and toning. She wants me to get into that a lot more when I finished going over some of this. Was so much a part of their practice. In research, they talk about the sistrum as warding off the shaking. It was warding off of the evil spirits. But the Isis speaks about it as shaking up. What did she say? Shaking up of the thought processes, like clearing the negative frequencies, and then the use of song and voice, high frequency, to elevate consciousness, to elevate the earth, the room. So anyway, I'll talk about the system a little bit more. And she talks about walking along the river and collecting stones, which I know a lot of us do, having certain stones that resonated with her, and she could feel that vibration and keeping them with her. Okay, and then the last, yeah, let me just get the book. So then the last part, so okay, here we go. I'll talk about the movement of the Kundalini and that practice. So let me see if I can find it. As I'm looking, go ahead, ask me any questions or comments, or I just saw something from, if you have a past life regression, see part of the life of the Divine Mother, can that also be something that is channeled and not necessarily a past life memory? You know what? When you have past life memories, you know, for this conversation, we're talking about daughters of Priestess of Isis and all that whole time period. It may be that some of you have had dreams in the previous days in preparation for this class, or you might tonight, or maybe as I'm talking, you're having spontaneous memories of, or resonances as I'm speaking about some of the practices and stories of Priestesses of Isis. So a past life regression can also be, you know, yes, I mean, all of these memories are stored within us. If you're seeing the Blessed Mother, there's a part of you, and you can say past life as if it's past, but every time is now and this present. There's an aspect of you that has walked the earth with the Blessed Mother, that has been present with her, that there's an aspect of you that was part of these teachings. And you know, everyone can say it in different ways. You know, if you think of a linear, like you had these series of lifetimes, I see them as aspects of me, parts of me, and we're integrating all these parts. And because when I see myself in a past life, or I've had some memories of the lifetime I had with Andrea, I'll get to you just one second, with the Priestess of Isis, or not necessarily, I was really not with anyone. I was being stoned. You know, do I feel like, I didn't feel like that was me. but I know that was an aspect of me. And I know I had fear around speaking up and sharing this story. So I know that fear probably came from time when I couldn't share these teachings. So, and we're integrating these aspects of ourselves. So go ahead. Oh, wait. So Marianne, who raised their hand first? And Andrea, why don't you go first?
Hi, everybody. So I was in Egypt last December, and I felt very called to Isis, and somebody recommended, because I do a lot of readings, so somebody recommended to get this oracle deck, the Isis oracle deck. And so I use that a lot, and I always find that she's guiding me. It's a very strong energy. Sometimes I'm scared of it because she's so strong, but it's very helpful.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I know that deck. Yeah, she is very strong. I was going to talk more about like my personal experience with her, but she's very powerful and very strong, and as is Mary Magdalene. Like their energies are, I don't want to say not soft, but there's a different power there, that sometimes for us who have been raised Christian or Judeo-Christian, who have had like more of the softer feminine energies, Isis is much more strong, just like similar to Brigid for me, to the Celtic Brigid and Sheba, Queen of Sheba. Go ahead, Marianne.
Hi.
Hi.
Isis has also come to me through breath. And after having my fourth child, I did some breath work and noticed just how clear I felt afterwards. And I kept getting the calling to become a breathwork facilitator. And I was trying to find some type of training, and this was close to 2 years ago. And when I did, I entered Isis training, and she showed herself to me as one who helps to clear the body through the water and also through the breath. And her presence too was very powerful, very fierce, but also very compassionate and loving. And she was saying that through that, she's helping to strengthen us to become the powerful goddesses that we are, and to truly embody that power, that compassion, that fierceness. And one of the things that she just asked me to share was that, given that you're so close to New York City, is that there are a lot of these Egyptian artifacts in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And if you do visit there, you can still hear and connect with the consciousnesses of Egypt and the consciousness is still in the artifacts there, whether it be the sistrum, whether it be the pieces of the walls and the artwork, whether it be the temples that they have inside the museum. And I know I had gone there a summer ago and was able to hear the consciousness of Isis and Egypt itself, and the knowledge that is kept there inside of these objects. So I just wanted to share that.
I love that. And you just reminded me when I went to Italy this past September with my husband, and we toured what did we tour? Wait, not the and we went to the Vatican and to the I guess the museum, where the Sistine Chapel is. I forget what they call it, the museum area. I didn't know what I was doing, to be very honest. I had no idea what we were signed up to do, but we ended up, I forget what they call it, but it's where the Sistine Chapel is. And it was a whole tour. You had to go through this whole museum to get to the Sistine Chapel. And I had no idea, first of all, that the Vatican had all these Egyptian artifacts. And because it was so crowded, I was stuck in a room with Sekhmet, who's another Egyptian goddess, for a very long time. And there was a huge activation that was occurring while I was in that room, my heart was going. And so thank you for that, Marianne. You know, I will do that. I will go because these were the real deal. Like these museums have the real artifacts from these ancient temples. And yeah, there's and the hieroglyphs. Yeah, and then the hieroglyphs, all of it. So activations, beautiful.
One more thing they asked to share is to also lux means light. Lux means light.
Okay.
And we're bringing that light in, making room for that light within us so that we can bring that sacred energy to the world. And they also told me about the star system Sirius is to look at those temples, let's say the Temple of Luxor and the large beings outside, and commune with the hieroglyphs on the wall and see listen for the transmitting that you'll receive from that. And what is the true nature of those beings and the hieroglyphs? Not so much what maybe history has written on them, but like as you teach, what is the transmission that you're receiving regarding the true nature of these temples?
Okay. Thank you. That's beautiful, Marianne. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love that. So, okay. So now I'm not going to get into a lot, but maybe we will do another class. The whole book, the Magdalene manuscript that I spoke about with Tom Kenyon, I would absolutely say, if you don't have it, you get it. It's so powerful. I was guided to it a couple of years ago because it actually is a channeling. It brings the practice of the movement of the breath and the awakening of the Kundalini and the movement of the Kundalini energies through the spine, and which is what was studied, which is what the Magdalene was talking about. So from page 41 in the book that I channeled, let's see let me start from the beginning. Yeah, I'll go back to the star system Sirius. But the high priestess taught of the life within and of the ascending and descending movement of currents that entered and exited the physical form and cycled back into the energetic structure. We learned of these movements and of the undulating light, the coil that lay often asleep at the base of the spine. And together we learned to awaken this energy and to draw its gentle movement up the spine, up the spinal column. These energies would enter the heart and draw forth new rhythms within it, emboldening and strengthening the heart as it awakened to a new light. And as this burst of light occurred, it would enter the forehead structure as well. The cycle completed when it entered the sacral area once again. And it was through the awakening of the heart's energies that the light would flow seamlessly through the energetic system, awakening the mind's eye and drawing forth a great quaking and shaking within. It was upon the completion of this energy cycle that a new life would be born from within. All was made new. And as we became knowledgeable of this light cycle, we would practice it daily. We began to know of a unified form, the pulsating waveforms of light that entered and moved fluidly throughout our systems. It often drew forth bouts of laughter for the great joy that entered. So she gives it in a very simple term, but I know, and as I was saying to Ligura, in the level 3 training and my own meditation, guided meditations, they guide me through the movement of the uncoiling of the Kundalini, the womb space, and the movement of light within the spine and into the heart, holding it at the heart, the chalice cup. She speaks of the alchemy within the chalice cup of the heart and the awakening of the high heart. And then she has us move the light up into the base of the brain, the upper neck area, at the base of the brain area, and holding it, which is often called the mouth of God, right? And holding the light there for a period of time, and then bringing it into the midbrain, the focus point, the pineal area, of the brain, and where another chalice cup sits, in the Kundalini energies, and Tom Kenyon talks about this as well, come to the chalice cup, and the awakening of the what does she call it? Like the sacred oils, the sacred the golden light, which is actually a secretion that comes from the brain that moves within the cup, symbolically the cup, but it's the alchemy and the merging of the feminine and masculine, bringing us into wholeness, into oneness, and stepping into our full light body, the awakening of the Merkaba, the light body. And this is the work of, and it's through the breath, the use of the breath. So this is the work that she does with me and with many people who do the trainings. But Tom Kenyon, his book explains it all. So I would highly recommend studying that, purchasing that, just to incorporate into your practice. So now I think this is a good time for me to bring in what she channeled to me for you guys. Let's see if I can pull it up. I could just go on and on, there's just so much to say. Okay. She says, I am the Isis one. This is for you. No, she channeled it to me. Some of it I'll skip over because some of it's specifically for me, but she says, I am the Isis one. I rise up at present to aid you, the divine creatrix. I am present as an embodiment of the mother of all. I stood tall and strong in the days of old, when many would wander and were fearful of the unknown state and the fall from grace. So she's talking about the Atlantis, the fall. I instilled within them a new light, a new breath, and so that the ways of the feminine may be awakened once again. My brethren in the light stood by my side to aid in this work. Osiris is one that is often spoken of as one who stood with me, as a brother, as father too. I say to you that we were of this lineage of light, and together we stood to aid the masses. Our entrance was required so that the knowledge may be imparted to the masters, so that they may rise again into the new life. My departure from these lands occurred many centuries later. At that time, my departure, at the time of my departure, many still dwelled in darkness, though the seeds had been planted to be later collected when full bloom was present. The collective consciousness of mankind had fallen to a state of ill repair, the breaking apart of the lineage and a fall to the lower realms. I instilled within them a new space where they may dwell, a temple space where they may find a new life. And so now I dwell within you. Through the interior of the mind's eye, you have come to know and to see me in the great works that I instill. The feminine counterpart is one that must arise now. Through the great works of all that you are about, the time has come for all to blossom, to rise up. This is the work that has been shown and taught in my temples, the rise of the breath and the inner knowing, the temple structure of light through a period of instruction of the inner caverns of the heart. The use of song was prevalent as in the use of toning and chanting, accelerated the heartbeat rate and advanced the streams of light on the outgoing breath to the masses. The system was one that enabled this rising up process through the breaking up of the old, the shaking and rattling of the sound currents to break apart the old thought processes and prepare the vessel of light. The golden lineage is now present once more as the veil of Isis enters. Symbolic of my nature, it now enters as an indigo veil of light for each who seeks to remember and invoke my name. The legends of the fall are upon you now. Receive them and allow all to rise up. Oh, some of this is for me. The mystery school teachings are the teachings of the inner knowing, of the symbolism of light. There are many who seek these teachings, but all must first come to know themselves and reveal their truth. And in so doing, the masters reveal to them these inner truths, these teachings behind the veil. Reveal yourself now. This is for me. Behind the veil, this is where the place where I dwell. The inner system now awakens, breaking apart the thought process of old, so that all may now rise up. Okay, let me see. There was something else that she. Okay, she also speaks about the use of magic. So there's the sex magic, and then she talks about the magic of the mind. In those days, we sought to embed within the Kala a new way, so that they may find within them a new thought process to aid in the awakening of gifts. This was the power of the magical one. Through the inner vision work and the magnetic pull, each was able to make manifest a new path for those who would seek them. They held tight to the hand of the divine and gained residency within their hearts. They sought the new path of light through their inner vision, and many seeds were planted. The use of magic is one that is akin to the manifestation process. It is through the use of the focused mind.
Give me a prescription that costs $250. But yeah, right. Let's take it.
Let me
Wait a
just
second.
mute everybody.
How is that possible?
I have no idea. I was like,
Okay. The use of magic is one that is akin to the magnification process of old. It is through the use of the focused mind and the musical notes within them that new structures were formed. The use of chanting and song and verse were utilized. Magic was prevalent through the use of the voice and the high acceleration of the heart's wisdom. They attenuated to the high heavens and gathered themselves together, reciting prayers and holding the high notes for periods of time as the acceleration process occurred. A high visage point was required of the inner vision and the knowledge of the high path. It is to this we speak when we speak of the high throne of Isis. It is a place of high vision. Lost my place. Of high vibration and the use of song. The use of song aids in the manifestation process. This is the magic. The veil is pulled aside and the inner knowing is released. Okay. This is the practice to which you are called, to remember what dwells within, of the soul group that now awakens as the lineage of the priestesses of the veil of Isis awaken. Inner vision. I lost some of this. Okay. So those are just parts of, I'll unmute you guys now. Those are just parts of the, or maybe you can unmute yourself. I don't know how to do it. It doesn't show me. I guess I have to like go in and do it individually. Yeah, you guys can unmute yourselves. I just wanted to give you portions of some of the stuff that she was sharing with me. What did you say, Megan? Yes, I can. I'll piece it together what I just shared and send it out to you. Some of the message.
That was
oh,
beautiful,
Marie, I
Mary.
missed part of your. I had a dream with you in it. Oh, you were teaching in a medieval town, and I was. Oh, and you were getting you a gift for your birth. Oh, thank you. That's so nice. Yeah. So like I said, this is the intention of it is to really just like stir the memory center within each of you of the practices of the priestesses of Isis and Mary Magdalene's story, but also the fact that we were each present in these times. We wouldn't all be here. I said that last month if we weren't part of this work and part of this lineage. So whether you were a priestess of Isis in Egypt, or maybe in Greece, or a follower of Yeshua and you met Mary, however you became, maybe you lived in Qumran, you became part of these teachings. There were incarnations when you were a daughter of Isis, priestess of Isis, whether it was in Mary Magdalene's incarnated state, her time period, or another. You walked this path. That's why we're all being woken up now, because this is our time to awaken those gifts once again, awaken those practices, and step forward into our work, into awakening the light body and anchoring in, awakening these temples of light that Isis speaks about, that she helped to establish upon the earth, the light grid upon the earth that she helped to establish, and that each of us helped to establish through the use of our voices, through our energetic form. Also from within our temple of light that's within us. And that's really the times of Egypt held these temples where you would go for your initiations, and this is where you needed to go. These times hold the frequencies that enable us to hold that light body, that temple of light within us. So the initiations are happening within us. Through transmissions, through our inner journey, time in the quiet, we're receiving these activations, these initiations. So the parts I would stop reading, those which she was telling me, and tell them this, and don't forget that. So I didn't want to, speak that way. In that way, it would have been confusing. But she wants me to instill that within each of us. That's why she asked me to channel and write that story. It's for you to help you to remember who you are and what you carry, and to begin those practices again, spending time in nature, doing the quiet meditation, the movement of the breath, the movement of the light, the kundalini, the use of song and dance, practicing toning and chanting, time in nature, purifying in the waters. All of those she's encouraging us to incorporate that as part of our practice as we wake up as priestesses of Isis, as Mary Magdalene was as well. Okay, so I feel like I've shared what she's asked me to share. So what else? Unmute yourselves. Tell me what else you want to share or ask or talk about. How are we doing on time? It's a little past an hour, but
Chair. So
I have-
in,
go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Now I can, yeah, you're cut off for a second, but now you're there.
Okay. That was beautiful. I was just going to say, I remember in the beginning of my awakening journey, I think I was in some kind of meditation. I can remember Isis coming to me because I could feel her energetic signature. And I do remember her having some sort of headpiece. And I remember sort of a scene. And that's interesting that you say Greece, because I feel like it was like cavernous what I was seeing. And that there was a bunch of us women walking in some sort of like long dress robes, away from like some sort of cavernous rockery type. And she just told me, that I had been, a priestess of hers. And it was just really interesting. So yeah, that's all the detail that I had.
Oh, that's beautiful. But what made you think it was Greece? Just the way the cavernous it looked?
Well, just that you say that, because to me, I wasn't seeing like a pyramid structure. It was more like caves or, and I could pick, to me, it must be like near some sort of water. And now that you said Greece, that seems more of the scenery
Yeah.
that I was seeing.
Yeah, that you just kind of know, right? I think I was, well, she tells me I was there in the temples of Egypt, but I think I came from Greece. I think I went to Greece, and she talks about in the book that these inner temple, these underground tunnel structures and caverns in Greece, with the Aphrodite, those who followed Aphrodite as well. It's all interconnected, you know, all of it, like Aphrodite, the Order of the Blue Rose, the Priestess of Isis, just all names for the study of the divine, the mystery schools of the Divine Mother, the feminine. So yeah, that's very, maybe we were there together. I know I came from Greece. I know there was a Greece connection for me. One of these days, and I don't know who else is on, but I know Ligera, are you connected to Crete? I know there's a couple of Greek
Yeah,
people.
so
Yeah.
my partner's from Crete, and
Oh, yeah.
like when we trace back maybe through great greats, like they were Cretan but stolen and taken to Sparta. It's very intense. But
Oh.
yeah, and I just found that out about my lineage too.
Oh, wow. But yeah, so one of these days we're all going to go to Greece, right? I have to find those places she talks about. I mean, we'll get into it later on when we do another one of these talks, but yeah, she just talks about the stone circles and the being outside under the moonlight and these hidden chambers, and I just want to find them and go in there, right? But yeah, it's definitely, we get these little glimpses of who we are and what's waking up for us. It's beautiful. I tried to squeeze so much in, you know, I don't know. I hope it wasn't too like overwhelming. I just wanted to give, for people who don't know who Isis is, I wanted to give a little background of who she is. And I'll just create like a little synopsis of what I said, because some of it, I had my notes, I skipped over a lot too. There's just so much to say about who she is, or so much of her symbolism, but the essence of who, as the great mother, that she was the blessed mother of her time, you know, as we celebrate this blessed mother now, but as who said it? Not Marianne. Andrea said or fierce. Who said she's fierce? I think Marianne said she's fierce. She's got that very strong energy. And wisdom, the wisdom of the ages she carries. She's the wise one. She's the embodiment of the mother of all. And call on her in your meditation. She's waiting in the wings, so to speak, in the wing, the awakening of the Kundalini and all of that. She'll help you. She'll guide you with that work. So does anybody else have any questions? Or okay, go ahead.
This is Monica.
Oh, Monica, go ahead.
So I'm trying to like understand the bigger picture of because what you just resonated with me, what you just said, that it's all part of the divine feminine, right? So how it has been, how it manifested through the ages, through different strong feminine, they're like archetypes, right? So for us to understand it today is because they keep saying we should remember all the stuff that we maybe learned at one point that we still know, or she'll help us to awaken it. So so for us today, where the divine feminine finally has to come together in a strong way, right? And it really has to manifest in the whole planet, not just in the mystery schools, not just as it used to be, right? So now the divine feminine has to come in such a way that we really find the balance between divine feminine and divine masculine. So it's almost like a culmination of all the teachings, of all the different manifestations. That has to come out now, and that's how we can look at it in a more bigger picture of all that. Is that
yeah I mean, yeah, this is all building to the seeds that were planted in those incarnations, in those times of darkness, This is the bloom time. This is the blossom time. This is the time of the great awakening through the time of the divine feminine. And she talks about it later in the book. She's placing the seeds within each of us, that we are the incarnations, we are the embodiment of Isis, of Mary Magdalene, of Brigid, of the Queen of Sheba, of all of them, Aphrodite. We carry, you could say, archetypes, you could say aspects, you could say the frequencies, that all that they carry, the passion and joy of Aphrodite, the wisdom of Isis, all of those aspects of, and we speak about the veil of Isis, like the hidden, the what's hidden, by going within and pulling the veil aside to the hidden nature of the world around us. And so this is all that's awakening through our own embodiment of the Divine Mother. And so we're speaking of not as women, as even though most all of us here are women, as the feminine within us, as we rise. There's a divine masculine as well, but it's wounded, it's out of balance, bringing the strong feminine energies back into balance, or awakening them, so we can be brought back into balance, both within and without on the earth, through our presence here. So I don't know if that answers you, Monica, but
no, I mean, I'm
yeah.
just, it did,
Like,
it
and I'll
did.
say to you, like in meditation, I'm sure a lot of you in meditation will hear that. This is how they'll say it. The Isis, when she comes to me, she'll say, I am entering you. I am entering you. I'm like, she's like, she's integrating, she's waking up in me. And then Mary Magdalene will say, I awaken within you, I awaken. They're all, it's all oneness, right? We are all. So it's
because we're basically still learning. We talk about the divine feminine, but we really just learning, what does it all mean, right? What was it, the greatness of it, it's not, it's so much more than we probably can imagine, right?
there's so much, but yet it's so simple too, all about the heart and moving within. It's receiving, it's the nature, it's all of that. And so we're all being called to move within, and to move behind the veil, pull aside the veil of Isis, and know who we are through the quiet.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Right.
You're welcome. Let me see, somebody else, a couple of people. Oh, you're welcome, Mary. It was so beautiful. Let's all blossom like the blue rose. Yeah, it's just so beautiful that we're all connecting, and we thought it was as a soul family, that we're all part of this soul family, and that's why we found each other today, right? So we will gather again in early January, and I don't know what the next topic is, but I'll figure it out. Go ahead, Ligera.
Just wanted to say, thank you. Obviously, it's so beautiful to meet and see you and hear from you. I don't know how I've been missing all of the classes up to this point, but this class, all of a sudden I was getting like notifications to take it. And I was like, to come, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'll see the replays.
Yeah.
And what you were saying about the voice, and then everybody saying how Isis is kind of fierce in energy. Next week I have 2 singing gigs, like the biggest ones in ever. I haven't sung in like a year, like performed. And you talking about the voice today and how we need to use our voice. I've been feeling like imposter syndrome about these gigs. And now since today, like hearing you and just feeling it, I don't know. It's like, I think I know why it was like being pushed to come.
Yeah. It's
So
your gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, so I don't know, for people who missed, I'm thinking about I know I post these on the lineage of the blue rose, the Facebook page, but I do have a YouTube account. And I have had every intention of like, I'm just trying to keep up with what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know. They keep telling me to market more or not market, but make things more accessible. But sometimes I don't know how to do it. But it occurred to me I could upload these videos to my YouTube channel, and that might be easier to access for some people. So that's of course, I'm going to do it during Mercury retrograde. So we'll see how that goes. But just so you know, watch for that. I'll post it. And then I was going to do a link on my website. That's what I was going to do. So I'm just trying to figure out ways to share this information so you can watch it if you didn't get to see the other ones. So anyway, I just want to say that to you, all of you. And thank you all for coming today. This was fun. And have a wonderful holiday, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. But the winter solstice, December 22nd is the class I'm doing. I think it's the 22nd. I don't know. But I sent it out. If you want to join us live, or you can do the recording. But it's a big one. It's a big gateway pushing us forward to 2024. So please, if you'd like to join us, I don't know who's coming, but I know the Brotherhood of Light is overseeing all of it. So I'd love to have you. All right.
Beautiful.
Love
Thank
you
you so
all.
much, Mary.
Have a great
you,
day.
Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Love.
Love you. Bye-bye.